Hi, hello, welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you're new here. My name is Cody, I am a writer, and today I'm breaking down my top 5 fears surrounding publishing. This one's a big one for me. This one's a big one. So if you want to go ahead and grab you a little drink, I got me an iced coffee in my lovely little Elphaba. Look at her, she's stunning. Okay, there we go. There we go. Get in on that. Ooh. So, as most of you guys know, I am in the process of publishing my very first book. This is her. This isn't the final copy of her, but this is a copy of her. This is the 3rd draft. At the time of recording this video, we've gone through like 6 or 7 drafts of the Ghostwriters Club. That's crazy. But with publishing a book, there comes a lot of fear, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of worry, a lot of, am I doing this right? I don't really know what the heck I'm doing. And so I thought that I would just kind of like pull the curtain back a little bit for anyone who has made it a goal in 2025 to set out and publish their first book. These are just some of the fears that I encountered personally, and I'm just going to be telling you some of the thought processes or some of the mantras or some of the videos that I have watched to sort of help silence those fears a little bit, because the one thing about doing anything you've never done before is there's always going to be this unknown factor to it. And whenever there is unknown, that leads to fear because you don't know what could happen, and obviously you don't want the wrong thing to happen, and there's plenty of horror stories out there on AuthorTube of things going wrong in the publishing process. If I'm being fully transparent and honest with you, once we got to 2025, yes, I had all this excitement built up around publishing my book because I knew 2025 was the year that my debut novel was going to be published. Now, with that said, as soon as I sat down and started working on all of the things that you need to do to publish a book, I sort of got into this paralysis mode, and all of these voices and all these fears kind of started to creep their way into my mind and kept me in a state where I did not want to do anything. All of my mental energy was being spent on worry, and I had no mental energy left to create YouTube videos or do some writing or do anything that wasn't related to doing something to get this book published or wallowing in paralyzing fear. So we're breaking that down because personally I have found some strategies and some things that have helped me work through my fears, and so here I am sharing them on the internet with you today in hopes that if you have some of these same fears, that I can maybe lessen some of those fears, some of those anxieties that you may be having surrounding publishing. If you're excited for today's video, make sure to give it a thumbs up to let me know that you like this kind of content. And without further ado, let's get into fear number 1. I feel like the most common fear amongst pretty much all creatives is that their art is not good, or that one day they will look back on it and they will cringe when they see a piece of their past work. Now, I know what you're saying. You're probably like, Cody, stop being mean to yourself. Hey, we all have our own little voices that like to trip us up every now and again. The Ghostwriters Club has gone through multiple rounds of beta readers, 3 rounds to be exact, and it's actually going to be going out here soon for ARC reviews and all that fun stuff. And despite being told over and over how, unique my story is, or how well it's told, or how great all the things come together in the end, people have given me so many compliments surrounding this story, but there's always that part of my brain that just simply does not believe them. It's like, oh, you're saying this to be nice. I said something nice about your book, so you're saying something nice about my book. Oh, that's so sweet. Since this is my first published work, this book is going to basically set the standard of what people come to expect of my writing with every book that I write in the future. And so there's always that innate fear that's like, oh, well, if this book isn't, at the standard or the quality that I would want it to be 10 years from now, I'm basically hurting my own name out in the author world, and it's only going to come back to bite me in the end. But after I have listened to a couple of other AuthorTubers, that is just simply not the case. My big wake-up call actually came when I was watching a video by Katie Wismer, but she posted a video just kind of like her things that she's learned along the way being self-published for so long. And one of those things was that your first book is going to be your worst book. If you are doing what you are supposed to be doing, if you are constantly learning with each book that you write, if you're, constantly seeking out ways to level up your craft, obviously your first book is going to be your worst book. That is just a fact. Now, unless you are some sort of prodigy and you happen to just write a New York Times bestseller on your first go, congratulations. But that is not the case for most of us. It was actually Katie's video that kind of helped me shift my mindset, because while I've been saying it on live streams that, you know, if I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, my first book will be my worst book. But just seeing her look back at her first book and talking about how bad it was, how much she cringes at it. She's like, the book itself is not bad, but she herself has grown as a writer since she wrote that first book. And with that sort of helped me really lock in and shift my mind, because she has a very successful author career. She is full-time, living as a full-time author, writer, and she's looking back at that first book and cringing, but her career is doing just fine. My career is just getting started, and people know that. They know this is my first outing in the publishing world, and as long as I am continuing to improve and working on my craft, that's the real goal, is to be constantly leveling up as a writer and improving my skill and my prose and all that good stuff. My second biggest fear when it comes to publishing is bad reviews or harsh criticism. Now, I feel like every creator, no matter what medium that you work with, whether it be painting, drawing, writing, there's always gonna be this voice in your head telling you that people won't like it. This isn't necessarily anything that I'm afraid of, because as someone who is already on the internet, I've already opened myself up to criticism and harsh feedback on the internet. I mean, I have gotten a few comments in my time here on YouTube where people have just, you know, said that they don't like me for my voice, or, you know, another quality of myself that I can't fix. At the end of the day, that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me. It just means that I personally am not for them, and that's okay. And if that's the case with me as a person, then it should be the same with my art. It doesn't mean that my art is bad. If someone doesn't like one of my books or anything that I published, then that just means that my book was not for them. We can toe the line here, because if the criticism is harsh but valid, then I am absolutely open all day long to taking any kind of feedback. One of my very first beta readers, he was super harsh on the book, but all of the things that he was pointing out were absolutely valid. And while I can handle harsh criticism when it's valid, I am not a fan of any kind of criticism that just comes from a place of hatred or just wanting to put someone else down, because we're all on the internet. We all know that's what people like to do. They like to troll behind their little keyboards and just make people feel lesser than, because they probably are sitting behind their keyboard feeling lesser than. I want you to think of your favorite book of all time. Go ahead, take a moment, pause the video, think about what it is. That book that has been sitting with you, it is your Roman Empire. You think about it every single day when you wake up and a little bit before you go to bed every night. And I want you to go on Goodreads and I want you to read every single 1-star review of that book. This book that you find so precious and meaningful to you, people are gonna hate it. People do hate it. And it's right there on Goodreads for you to read. And if you look at most of those hateful comments or those like 1-star reviews, most of the time it comes down to the fact that I just didn't like this, it was not for me, not my taste, blah, 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 blah. I'm not saying there's not the occasional person that's gonna be like, your writing sucks, you need to just quit, blah, 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 blah. People like that are on the internet, but we just choose to ignore them because she doesn't even go here, okay? Like, have you ever written a paragraph in your life? Ooh, the way you don't know how to punctuate a sentence in your review? Babe, sit down. Go get you a snack and then come back and we can talk. Bad reviews and harsh feedback are inevitable, and it is only a matter of not necessarily shielding yourself, but accepting the fact that there will be people that hate your book. That's okay. As long as you love your book, that's your art, baby. Be proud of it and shout it out to the world, because I guarantee you that for every person that says they hate your book, there's 10 people out there that will love your book. Moving on. My third biggest fear when it comes to publishing is setting something up incorrectly. At the time of recording this, the Ghostwriters Club has been uploaded into all of the places that it needs to go. It's basically, at this point, we're just waiting for everything to get approved and to show up places. And so the hard part is over, I think. If you're an indie author or you have thought about being an indie author, if you've ever just gone on to like KDP, Ingram Spark, Kobo, Draft to Digital, whatever you are on, it can be a bit stressful because there are a lot of little options that you have to click. There's a lot of information that needs to be there that needs to be very specific, needs to be very correct. And if not, it can literally throw off the entire publishing process, because with most of these places, you can, go and update information really quickly. But a lot of the time it takes days to maybe weeks to have that appear updated on the actual platform. Ingram Spark, I'm looking at you. My ebook is going to be on KDP and my paperback book is going through Ingram Spark. Now, whenever I was first setting up my books on Ingram Spark, I went ahead and just clicked paperback and ebook, thinking that, oh, later I can change my mind and delete the ebook off of Ingram Spark. That is not the case. You actually can't delete anything, any books off of your IngramSpark account without getting customer service involved. And if you've heard anyone on this space talk about IngramSpark's customer service, you would know that it can be a little sketchy at times. I personally had a really good experience. I was able to use their live chat feature, and I was able to say, hey, I'd like to remove my ebook off of IngramSpark because I'm doing it through KDP. They were like, okay, bet. And they took care of it literally in a couple minutes. But the only downfall is they said that it can take up to 15 days for your account to show the change, which is fine because I've got more than 15 days until this book comes out. So it's not an issue. But it's things like that. Like, I had no idea that it took that long to remove something off IngramSpark. I had no idea that I couldn't just decide to remove it myself whenever I wanted to. But these are things that you kind of learn along the way. And now that I have sort of, gotten in there and really just looked at everything and gone through everything with a fine-tooth comb myself, I feel much more comfortable navigating these platforms. I would not have had the confidence to go forth and work through these platforms if not for some amazing author tubers. I usually go to Mandy Lynn, Bethany Altazade, Jenna Moresi. Those are like my core three because those ladies are really holding it down here on the internet, on the YouTubes. And they just have so much content surrounding the self-publishing process, the how-to process, lots of tutorials. Highly recommend checking them out if you've never actually looked at any of this kind of stuff before. Even though it looks scary, they make it feel a little less scary. Because most of the time on my computer, I had my YouTube tutorial on one side and I had IngramSpark on the other side. And girl, I was pausing and playing step by step, making sure I'm doing the right thing and writing anything down that I needed to remember for the future. It was great. Highly recommend. Go check out their videos. Maybe I can have some of my favorite videos that I used linked in the description below, and I'll also have their channels linked below as well. My fourth biggest publishing fear is deciding whether I want to use a pen name or my real name. Now, I went back and forth with this so many times. Some authors consider using a pen name for privacy because they want their personal life and their professional author life to be completely separate. Some people use pen names because they write in multiple genres, and so they have one pen name for each genre. Me personally, I fall into that second category. If you've been following my recent content, you would know that I am currently in the process of world building, outlining my fantasy series under the title of Project Purple. And if you don't know, the Ghostwriters Club is a mystery thriller. During November last year, I wrote a paranormal thriller, Project Terms and Conditions. So we have two thrillers over here and a fantasy series over here, two very different genres. And part of me was like, I don't know if I want to use my real name for my mystery books or if I want to use my real name for my fantasy books. The answer kind of came to me in a roundabout way. I've recently gotten really into watching a lot of Brandon Sanderson interviews. It started with me watching his lecture series about world building for fantasy and sci-fi. Obviously, as someone who was starting out his first fantasy series, I wanted to learn from one of the best, one of the biggest names in fantasy. I started watching his lecture series, and then that led to me watching a lot of videos that he posts on his own YouTube channel. And that led me to watching interviews, all these things. Mind you, I was not very familiar. I have never read a piece of work by Brandon Sanderson, so I was under the impression that he only wrote fantasy books, but I learned through my deep dive that he actually has written children's books and sci-fi books, along with his fantasy books. And he's used the same name on every single one of them. Now, granted, not all of us have a name as big or as well known as Brandon Sanderson, and so it works for him. For me, I really liked that he did that. He likes fantasy stories, he loves sci-fi, but he also has kids, and so he writes books for his kids. And all of these things, all of his readers read all of his books, not necessarily for the genre, but just because they like a Brandon Sanderson story. They have come to know what to expect from a Brandon Sanderson story, and whether it is in a fantasy setting, a sci-fi setting, a children's book setting, a young adult setting, no matter what setting it is, it's going to be a Brandon Sanderson story. I've mentioned it before, but this book here, one of the biggest themes in this book is legacy. What do people say about you after you're gone? I wanted my readers to know what to expect from a Cody the Writer book, from a Cody Wayne Morris book. And whether that be in a mystery thriller setting, a paranormal thriller setting, fantasy setting, I just hope that my readers will pick up a Cody book, no matter what genre it's in, and know what to expect. That's what I want, and that's kind of why I've been leaning towards having all of my books just be under the same name, because when I'm gone, my stories that I'm writing now are my legacy that I will leave behind one day. And one day when I am gone, I want there to only be one name on my stories, and I want that name to be mine. And last but not least, my fifth and final fear that I have been dealing with is marketing. That's it, just marketing. This one has definitely been one of my most recent fears to develop because I'm a writer, I like to post videos on YouTube, but the idea of marketing just sounds terrifying to me because that means that I'm the one that has to decide when marketing things go out. I'm the one that has to decide what these marketing things look like. Where am I going to post my marketing? I'm not gonna just not do it because in my gay audacity, I believe that with enough practice and enough time on YouTube, I can accomplish anything. Okay? I feel like this fear sort of developed because it's no secret, okay? I'm not the most aesthetic person there is. Yes, I like my workspace to look aesthetic and be neat and tidy, but as far as like the internet goes, when I first got here on YouTube, I didn't know anything about aesthetic. You can go back on my channel from the beginning and you can just see how my style of thumbnail has like gradually evolved and changed into what it is now. And now I feel like I kind of have a better sense of what thumbnails work better, what thumbnails don't really work at all. Through this process of posting videos on YouTube, I realized that I was studying marketing and I didn't even realize I was studying marketing. When you create thumbnails for your videos, you are literally marketing yourself, your video, out into the world, and you are hopefully marketing yourself well enough that when someone sees it, they want to click on it and watch the video, and hopefully if they watch the video and they like you, they'll subscribe. And that's like a whole like trickle-down effect. Well, the same thing applies to publishing a book because instead of selling yourself on the internet doing YouTube, you're just selling a product. And if you can make that thumbnail or that Instagram post or whatever marketing material you're using, if you can make that interesting enough to where someone wants to click on it, if they click on it and they're interested, maybe they'll buy your book. It's literally the exact same process, just in two different avenues. And so if you are someone who is already on YouTube, or if you have been thinking about doing YouTube, I highly recommend it because it is a fantastic way for you to learn what works out there on the internet before you start marketing the book. You can go ahead and already have all of this knowledge built up from what you've learned through thumbnails and just apply that to your marketing strategy with your book and when you post things, and hopefully you will see similar results. But again, this is just me speaking hypothetically because I myself have not marketed a single thing yet. While marketing is the thing that I am the least confident in this entire process, if I've learned one thing from being on YouTube, being a writer, that the more you do something, the better you get at it. Throughout the process of writing this first book, I've learned how to create thumbnails for YouTube. I've learned how to design merch, bookmarks, and postcards, and all these other marketing materials that I'm gonna be using for the Ghostwriters Club. And I did all of that just by trial and error, figuring out what works, taking pictures, sending it to my friends, being like, hey, is there anything you would change on this? And not to brag, but I have gotten really good at using Canva. And there you have it, folks. If you like the video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up down below. If you enjoy this type of writing content, go ahead and click subscribe. I have so many videos coming up just talking about the publishing process, the cost of publishing, the highs and lows, the mistakes made. All of that content is coming to this channel this year because I have learned so much in these last few months publishing my first book, and I can't wait to share all of that knowledge with all of you here on the channel. Leave me a headphones emoji down below to let me know that you are going to be putting on those headphones and blocking out all the voices in your head and the fear and all of that good stuff, because listen, we're all in this together. And if you need me to come over and square up on some of your fears, I'll happily do so. Okay? I hope to see all of you in my next video, but until then, bye!